Steve and Meet again, back with another Bullseye Guy podcast. Still in LA and Beverly Hills. Rarity for me. Almost 9 days now. I don't know what to do with myself. Things keep changing. I know the cities and states are open. Some are closed. One of them that's historically been open is Arizona. And coming to us from Arizona, Sharon, excited to have Sharon on. I think I shared with her, and many of you know I've got a long history of sales and sales training and Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill, and some of those early masters are just great books for the fundamentals, and excited to listen and learn. And with that, Sharon, nice to meet you. Thanks so much. Give us an introduction.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I am so delighted to be with you, and I appreciate the opportunity. And yes, we've probably been swimming in the same ponds. It's nice to finally meet you and appreciate the support. And certainly we're excited with my most recent book, Exit Rich, coming out, but it's number 26. So I've been around a long time. Started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad and 15 of those books, and then went on to work really closely with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, 3 Feet from Gold, Outwitting the Devil, Think and Grow Rich for Women, and Success in Something Greater. So it's been quite the journey, but I really am, and of course, as a result, I'm thought of as an author, but I really am an entrepreneur. I love creating businesses. I love helping people create businesses to create assets. So I teach the elements of creating income producing assets in your life. Because when it comes to money, it either controls you or you control it. And too many of us are controlled by our money. So
I think you and I are going to have a lot of the same thought process. Mine will just be these little sales quips. Mm-hmm. And my sales quip with money is money makes you more of what you already are.
Yes, it does.
If you're insecure, you're more insecure. If you're, pardon my French, an ass, you're a big ass with money. But if you're nice and generous, like, money gives you that freedom, and we just need to honor it the right way. With your background though on the entrepreneurial side, Sharon, talk to me about, when did you start your entrepreneurial journey? What sort of led you down the path? When did you know you would be not only an entrepreneur, but a prolific book author?
Well, it's kind of one of those interesting stories. I was at the age of 10. I lived in a small house with my parents, between my mom's beauty shop, my dad's used car lot. I had to go scrub out rental properties between tenants. And so I was raised in a very entrepreneurial home, and swore I'd never be an entrepreneur. I wanted to become a sophisticated professional. First generation to go to college. I got my degree in accounting, started in public accounting, one of the very first women in public accounting. Thought I was pretty hot stuff. And then about the ripe old age of 25, when I realized I was working ungodly hours, my parents started looking a whole lot smarter. And so that's when I left public accounting and started my entrepreneurial journey, and I've never looked back. So I just had the opportunity. I met the inventor of the first talking children's book and helped grow this around the world, understanding the power of association, aligning with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, and then continued really. I teach the power of entrepreneurship. When you build a business, successful businesses do one of two things: solve a problem or serve a need. We have a few problems and needs in the world, so there's huge opportunity. And that's where you can really build that asset, that business, into an asset that can provide for you and your family.
Yeah, and as an entrepreneur, we do a lot of investing, and it's the saying is people do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. Mm-hmm. You sell more aspirin than vitamins. I mean, there's all these great sales quips. As you started your entrepreneurial journey, did you move into business first with an idea, or when and how did the book side come along? Because doing a book is a lot of work in and of itself. It's an entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, it kind of was through osmosis. My first, I started doing some training programs for the accounting firm that I was with. I started working, I was on the board for the American Cancer Society. I started helping them develop some training programs. So I got into this kind of writing and curriculum development. And then when I met the inventor of the talking children's book, I got involved in publishing and wrote some of the books for that. And then when we sold that company, moved to Arizona, my oldest son went off to college and got into credit card debt. And that was December of 1992. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial literacy and financial education. I never ever thought I'd be a famous writer. My 8th grade English teacher told me I would be a famous writer. My sorority mom in college told me I'd be a speaker on stage, both of which I thought were crazy.
Yeah.
And of course, here I am years later. But it was really, again, using the medium to build the business around the book. The book was a tool. Rich Dad Poor Dad, when we wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, it was intended to be a brochure for a board game we developed. And of course, it took on a life of its own, and it became the first of 15 books we wrote together.
Yeah.
So there was never a long-term game plan for me to write 26 books, have 5 New York Times bestsellers, but that's what evolved because, again, solving problems and serving needs. Every time I see something that I can help people with, I want to create a tool that will help them.
Wow. And the book Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of the cornerstones when I was doing the sales training at Travelers Group. It was in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And we were teaching, I mean, I was building sales forces, but we were teaching the rule of 72, dollar cost averaging when the markets drop, keep putting money, like all of these sort of basic techniques. And that's what, you know, a lot of what the initial book series that you're talking about did. There were these simple fundamentals that were just never taught. And I think that really changed a lot of people's perspective. How did you end up writing that first book? How did you get introduced to the other author, Kawasaki?
Well, I actually got a phone call one day from my husband. Mike's an intellectual property attorney, and Robert had gone to see him, walked in with Bermuda shorts and flip-flops with his idea for a board game drawn out on a piece of paper. And he wanted to see if he could patent it. And Mike called me that day and said, Sharon, I met this guy that's got what you've been looking for, because I've been working with the school systems and been trying to get them to take on financial education. So I met Robert at the first beta test for the cash flow board game. I'm the only one that got out of the rat race, but I loved the concept. It was exactly what I was teaching. So I actually volunteered to help him commercialize the game because I had the experience with the talking children's books. We'd done games in that company as well. And during that process, he told me he wanted to charge $200 for the board game. So that's kind of pricey. We're talking 1996.
Yeah.
He said, if you want people to invest that kind of money, maybe you should write a brochure that kind of explains the philosophy. And that's when he asked me to be his partner. And that brochure we wrote was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And this was released in April of 1997. We never expected this to take on a life of its own. And it became the first. We never expected to write 15 books together, but we ended up doing that over the 10 years we worked together. So again, you have to understand what the market needs and to continue to support that. But yeah, we thought our brand was cash flow, and the world said, no, your brand is Rich Dad.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. Even like Mark Victor and Jack Canfield are friends of mine in the whole Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and how you end up in these niches and lanes that you didn't anticipate.
Absolutely. They're good friends of mine as well. And, they're really, from a standpoint of understanding niche marketing and how to get out there and how to overcome objection. They had so many people turn them down for publishing Chicken Soup, and look at the incredible dynasty that they've created. So it's the real testament and understanding perseverance and unique marketing.
Yeah. And then, so Rich Dad is obviously been a successful series and things. What was after that? What was next in line?
Certainly. Well, in 1997, we launched the company. In 2007, after 10 years, we were at the height of our success. And then we were no longer aligned with what we wanted. He wanted to go into franchising. I didn't think it was a good model for the franchisees. So I made the decision to leave, and not quite knowing what was in store for me. And I tell everybody, sometimes you have to close one door for other doors to open. I thought Rich Dad was my legacy, but somebody upstairs had something else in mind. And that's when I got the phone call from President Bush. I was asked to be on the very first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy, an incredible honor. I served both President Bush and President Obama, so equal opportunity here. And then shortly after that, we know what happened to the economy in 2008. I got the phone call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation asking me to help reinvigorate his teachings, which was another incredible honor. After having built the largest personal finance brand, to be able to ask to step into the largest personal development brand and help reinvigorate his teachings was an incredible honor. And so I always share that with people, because sometimes you have to close one door for other doors to open. And that's exactly what happened for me.
Yeah. And it's again, I have my podcast here. I have my 10 books because people come to me a lot. Oh, what book should I read? And I think it depends on where they are in their arc of understanding, whether it's where they are in their arc of financial journey or personal journey or spiritual. People are at these different lists. So what I did instead was I said, here's the top 10 everybody should read in order. And number one was always, and we used to joke, we called it Tagger for Think and Grow Rich. That was our shortener. And Think and Grow Rich was always number one just for mindset. And then number two was what to say when you talk to yourself, because if you couldn't stop the self-sabotaging. And then third was the 4 agreements with the principle, don't take things personally, because if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you tell people you've got a mastermind group with a bunch of people who are dead, people might think you're a little crazy. So the foundation was amazing. What was most surprising for you in working with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and what did you do differently on the women's version from the classic one that Napoleon did?
Well, thank you for that question. I think, the 3 Feet from Gold was the first book that I did with them. And that really was talking about the personal success equation, which is combining your passion and your talent, which most of us do, but we stop there. And then the next part is times the right association, having the right people in your group, times taking action. So many times we know what we're supposed to do, we just don't do it, plus having faith and confidence in yourself. And you go to personalsuccessequation.com for a little better explanation about that. But the month we released 3 Feet from Gold was when I got the call from Don Green asking me to look at this manuscript that had never been seen by Napoleon Hill. And specifically to your point, when he released Think and Grow Rich, was a 25-year effort on his part. He was frustrated because he said, here I have this doctoral thesis on success and people won't do what they need to because of this fear. And so he sat down and wrote Outwitting the Devil in just a few short months in 1938. But his wife worked for the Presbyterian College and the title scared her to death and she forbid it to be published. And it was locked away for 73 years.
Yeah.
And I was asked to bring it out. And it was an unbelievable honor because sent to me, of course, he did it on a manual typewriter with handwritten notes in the margin. So I felt like I was having a conversation with Napoleon.
Wow.
And it really has exploded around the world because it's particularly effective for the younger generation. It's a little in your face. It's an interrogation of the devil. Napoleon Hill says, you can believe I'm talking to the real devil or an imaginary man-made devil. Will you derive any benefit from what I share? And he talks about how 98% of the population goes with the flow, that kind of follow the leader, follow the crowd, and they don't have control of their own mind, and calls drifting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And versus non-drifters, the 2% who have control of their mind. That's right. And he talks about how to get through that fear. Now, fear of criticism, fear of poverty, fear of death, fear of old age, fear of loss of love. He goes through each of those. And he takes on every taboo there is: sex, politics, religion, education, alcohol, cigarettes, the whole thing. And it's incredibly revealing, is as pertinent today as it was when he wrote it in 1938. But he talks about how to break through that fear: definiteness of purpose, mastery over self, learning from adversity, controlling your environment, what you are allowing in your head, who are you hanging out with, controlling your time. What are you doing? Are you investing your time or spending your time? And then he talks about hypnotic rhythm in a very bad sense, but it also can be a positive sense, because if you do those first 5 things, you create a positive habit. Hence, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Let's have a better habit of how we invest our time. And then the last one is caution, making sure that you pay attention to every choice you make every single day. And so it was an incredible opportunity for me to share that and to bring that to light for people and to see the incredible impact it's having on people's lives.
Yeah.
And then,
go ahead.
And that was the month when we released that, they asked me to do Think and Grow Rich for women. So to your question about that, when he wrote Think and Grow Rich, there were no women in business.
Yeah, in the whole book, you can tell it's a man's world and a man's slant.
Yes.
Right down to the reason you lose your hair is because of wearing the hats all the time. So
yes, exactly. And so I had the great honor of honoring his work, but looking at each of those steps. The chapter outline is the same, through the eyes of successful women who use those same principles in their success. Then I share how I used it in my journey, and then I have quotes from people. I honor over 300 women in the book, and it's just such an incredible honor to be able to do that and to show that success is important. It's also significant. So I talk about the steps of Think and Grow Rich for women, from success to significance, and understand that we can make an impact on the world. And it's not women instead of men, it's women alongside men.
Yeah, it's again, over my shoulder is the bullseye. I created a 10-step program called a bullseye belief system. And it's the amalgamation of 500 books and thousands of hours. And you just hit on so many of them. That's why even when I stack the books, you have to control your subconscious thoughts and your self-talk. You can't take things personally. You know, so there's so many things that are there that I think are great. I want to ask you a question specifically on the Napoleon Hill one. I have friends all the time who read Think and Grow Rich. And line 1, verse 1, chapter 1, mentions made in every chapter of the secret that is made untold wealth for scores of individuals. And I ask people, what's the secret? Because Napoleon tells you secrets mentioned in every chapter. And over, Sharon, people like, oh, it's goal setting, it's math. Nobody really gets to what the secret is. And many years ago, I believe I discovered the secret around energy, mind. There's a lot of things he alludes to. What I want to get to, though, is I thought this was where you were going. The book, The 17 Principles, that one where they found these manuscripts and put it together, and those 17 principles delve into things that Napoleon only alludes to in Think and Grow Rich, but outlines much more deeply in that next book. Were those the manuscripts you were talking about that went into a different one, or is it something along those lines?
Well, Outwitting the Devil was a separate manuscript that he wrote in 1938. But what you're talking about, like the first line in Think and Grow Rich, thoughts become things, right? The evolution of the different people who were close to him have different aspects. Some felt, Clement Stone felt it was positive mental attitude, okay, definiteness of purpose. I think it's the combination of two of those that are really the essence of understanding how to create wealth and success in your life. And the 17 steps to achievement are taking that into, if you imagine the book and the movie The Secret, all right, think good thoughts and good things are going to happen to you. Well, good luck with that. In the 17 steps to achievement, Napoleon Hill says you have to go the extra mile. You have to dress the part. You have to do it with enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So it gives you the character traits that allow you to help bring the steps to achievement to life.
Yeah, it's amazing. That, again, I'm not trying to, I don't sell my book. My book's not, but my step 1 talks about definite of purpose. So even back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, I make people define financial independence. Most people don't even know what that means. Oh, rich. Well, here's $3. I make them come up with a specific, net worth, having enough money saved to live off the interest, to maintain a standard of living. Then I make them multiply it more to what they would do for others. So it moves to the service of others. And that's if you had money and didn't have to work, what do you want your life to be like? What are your attributes? What kind of people? What kind of difference? And then you build that definite of purpose and then teach people how to get there. And that's why I said the Think and Grow Rich, so Rich Dad, there's so many of these that as you read them, they become what I call concentric circles. And they start overlapping and putting them all together.
And everything that I teach in Rich Dad Poor Dad and all the books that I've written since and all my programs, it's really the concept of assets. And this was Think and Grow Rich, creating, buying, and building income producing assets, because you're financially free when the income from your assets exceeds your monthly expenses. It does not have to be millions of dollars. But if you don't get out of bed and go to work and you don't get paid, you're not financially free. So you want to create those assets that work for you. Assets, my favorite word on earth. Assets, royalties, and leverage, my 3 favorite words on earth. And is understanding the essence. And that's not what we're taught in school. We're taught to chase money, to exchange time for money. I don't want you to exchange time for money. I want you to invest your time to buy, build, and create income producing assets.
I agree. And that definitive purpose is helping them define what that outcome is. Like even knowing outcomes, I think people struggle with. For the women's version of Think and Grow Rich, what were some of the key differences you know, were there different stories you put in, different analogies, different, you know, because women sometimes have a different output or outcome. They want business that might be more lifestyle or life balanced at times. What were some of the changes you made in the women's version?
Well, there are a couple of different things. One of the reasons, you know, most of my career, I was one of the very first women in public accounting. And so I survived in a man's world. And for many years, I resisted doing something specifically for women because I think the steps to success are the same. We just approach them a little differently. And then, so that's when I wrote Thinking Rich for Women, I wanted to say, let's look at these principles through the eyes of successful women. And I also wanted to change the dialogue. So many women were complaining and criticizing about the men that stood in their way. Well, if you are a student of Napoleon Hill's, you understand your mind can't hold positive and negative at the same time. So what do you attract when you're complaining and criticizing? Nothing good. And so I said, let's change our dialogue from complaining and criticizing the men in our way to let's celebrate the progress women have made. Is there more they need to make? Yes, but let's celebrate the progress that's been made and let's celebrate the men that have supported us along the way. Because I truly believe it's when men and women come to the table together, we have the greatest results. And so that was one of the primary purposes for writing Think and Grow Rich for Women, to change the dialogue. And then the second one was a chapter that I added in Think and Grow Rich for Women that is not in the main book, and it's called One Big Life. Women, particularly some men, but women primarily worry about this work-life balance. And I don't believe in it. All right. Balance belongs in the studio for yoga and dance. I mean, we have lots of aspects of our life. We have our spiritual life, our financial life, our fitness, we have our business, we have our children. All of those things create one big life. And what happens is women spend precious time today worrying about something that happened yesterday or worrying about something that may or may not happen tomorrow. And so I had the definition of the word worry. To worry is to pray for what you do not want. Right? Yeah. And that's what we do. We worry and we have negative thoughts and we get negative results. And so now by sharing that with people, I get them to stop. I happen to be a champion worrier, so I understand it very well. And so now when I catch myself in a state of worry, I stop. And I go, Sharon, instead of thinking about what I don't want to have happen, let's reframe my brain in thinking about what I do want to have happen. Yeah. And it truly is magical because all of a sudden you're now focused on positive results, not negative. And so I wrote that last chapter, One Big Life, to give women a break. Stop worrying about work-life balance, thinking about if you didn't spend enough time with your kids yesterday, just make a different choice today. Don't waste precious time today worried about it.
Wow. And again, these are all, I have my 10 truths. Everything with me is either 3 or 10. One of my top 10 truths is 99% of the things we worry about never happen. So why worry? There's no future in the past. Let's focus on forward. And even differently, when you said a reframe, there was an instance of something that happened to me years ago in New York where I walked out and a bomb exploded. Well, it wasn't a bomb. It was a big explosion in the streets of New York at 8:30 in the morning. And I tell the story, I'm like, and the first thing that you think would go through your mind is it a bomb? I said, but instantly my brain's trained to go, what else could it be? Let's not be nefarious. Is it a backfire on a truck? And people go, what do you mean your brain's trained? I said, my brain's trained to not think negative. In that instant you think bomb, no, what else could it be? And you instantly move over and reframe your thoughts. And it is a skill. It's a technique. It's things people can learn if they're ever taught, and what a difference it can make for people. Yeah,
it's training. I mean, there are people that, I tell people, you've heard the line, do you see a glass half full or half empty? And it's been a very strong phrase most of my life, but I've added one. I said, I see a glass as refillable, right? We all have things that cause a problem. Well, but we can get past it and fill your cup up. And that's what I want people to do, is not so many people, we get stopped in our tracks, and it could be a death, a divorce, a financial setback, but we sit in that setback. And it's so important for us to look at what we can do to take that next step and learn from it and use that to go forward.
And that, again, I sound self-gratulating. I'm not. I just love all these conversations. That's one of mine as well. All we can control are our actions and our attitude.
Yeah,
All these externalities we can't control.
I say we are all where we are today because of the choices we made before today. And if you want something different out of life, just start making different choices today.
Yeah, actions and attitude, because these external things are going to happen, and we can't prepare for them or worry about them. So fascinating stuff. I love it. What's on the horizon for Sharon? Is there another book in the works? Is there a next step of sharing the information and lifting people up? What's coming up for you?
Thank you, Stephen. I welcome everybody to reach out to me, info@SharonLechter.com. I actually have started 3 new companies. I'm 67 and it's kind of shocked, but I see things that can help people create wealth in their lives. And I've been very excited about these groups that I've worked with for years. One is a joint venture with Cardone Ventures, helping them bring some concept of intellectual property and licensing to their high level folks. We're doing a mastermind in Miami in a few weeks. And so you can email me if you want.
Couple. Grant and his wife both. What a powerhouse.
Yes, and Brandon Dawson is his partner in Cardone Ventures. And Brandon and I worked together for years. He sold his company for 151 million, 77 times EBITDA. And so he's brilliant, incredible. And so I'm very honored to be working alongside them to help people really identify that value in their business that they may not understand, identify it, protect it, and then leverage it. And then another couple of young men that I've mentored started a company called ULA, and it's been in existence for 7 years, but it was just created the technology to do goal setting. It's online, and it's really AI driven specifically for you. And so you go through an assessment tool, and then you set your daily goals, and it's gamified. So it's a lot of fun. I love the product. It's great. We just launched this month, and I'm just very proud of them and excited to see they've already impacted 1 million people, and they want to take it to 1 billion people. And it's a great way to have your own personal accountability, but also to support you if you're a coach, or other people, you can make actually money from sharing it with others. And then the third one is eXp Realty. My husband and I believe in the model because there's way too many real estate agents out there that are working hard commission to commission without ever building wealth for themselves. And this company has redefined the model so that not only do you get the transactional revenue, but you get revenue share from other people you bring into the business. Plus you end up get stock in the company.
Overrides. The stock's done amazing. I have Don Hobbs and Allison Gaddy. I have some friends that are deep in that, and the stock's done amazing. And
they just announced $1 billion quarter. So today, actually, they've made $1 billion in the first $1 billion quarter. So the company is designed to support the agents. What a refreshing thought. So we're involved in all 3 of these initiatives, and happy to share with anybody if they just want to reach out to me, info@SharonLechter.com, to learn more about any of them. But it energizes me because I see something that can support people in their journey, and that's what I want to share.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Sharon, I appreciate it. I was excited to meet you just because of the history and background. And as I said, I've grown up within this industry, in this space, and I love the learning aspect, but even more so, I love the sharing side of how it's the old saying, right? Eat like a bird, poop like an elephant.
Well, and it truly is. And it's all about the power of association, Stephen. I'm so proud of the people that I've met along the way, and I'm always looking to create new associations. So I'm proud to meet you, and I look forward to the possibilities.
Perfect. Again, thanks, Sharon. Stephen, me, the Bullseye Guy. Reach out to Sharon. Great stuff. Amazing resource. And tune in again next week.
Thank you.